Okay, good morning. Welcome to Introduction to Communication and Theory class. Today we're going to learn a bit about the intercultural communication. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Kadek Tommy Kanchana Putra. I'm a lecturer of communication from the London School of Public Relations. So let's start the class, and I'm going to set a screen here. So if you can see, this is the topic of our class today, basically to learn about how the culture and societies works, and also what does it mean to intercultural communication. So if you learn first about the cultures, basically this is also combinations of how the symbols, knowledge, folklore, custom language informations, patterns, ritual habits, etc. that link with the identity of particular group in a particular time. So basically, like cultures very strongly about how the groups are creating their own identity, and then how people knows their identity in a particular time as a culture. And as you can see here, maybe some pictures, for example, culture also very strong with the verbal and non-verbal messages. You see, like here, maybe the example how our kissing in the public as a culture of Western, probably like a son with his father who didn't met for a long time, or even like structures of mosque in different countries, or how people are putting their foods outside, during the winters, and then they have that kind of a culture of making kimchi during the winter in Korea, or even how people appears from the look, from the sari they wear, or from the appearance they usually wear every day. That also show how cultures work in the society and from different nations. And then when we talk a bit about the relationship between communication cultures, so basically the communication here are linking individual to one another. So that's why when people are trying to connect with other individuals or other people, then they need communications that show the culture as well through that communications. And the second one, creating context for interaction and negotiation among members. So basically how the context of their interactions, is it about negotiations of business or negotiations about interests of nations, between one country to another's? That also show how people are showing their communication through the culture's representation as well. And then number three, how the providing basis for a common identity. So it's very strongly that how people are showing the identity that will create the cultures, how it will impact other people seeing their identity as a whole, as a cultures of a group of people. So if you see here, maybe there are some dimension of cultural differences. There are five kind of different cultural dimension that we're going to learn today. The first one about monochronic and polychronic. And the second one is about individualism and collectivism. And number three is about high and low context culture. And number four is about power distance, and five is about masculinity and femininity. So we're going to learn one by one, and I'm going to explain it in detail a bit. Okay, the first one about monochronic. So the monochronic and polychronic here are the difference. The monochronic cultures are mostly people one thing at a time. They see time is money. If you see here the list of countries there, the monochronic cultures come mostly from Germany, Canada, Switzerland, Australia, US, and Scandinavia, etc. So they are really focus on like when doing things and focus on like time is money. They focus on the job or work. But it's on another hand, as a polychronic cultures like more on Saudi Arabia, France, Egypt, Greece, Mexico, Philippines, even I think our cultures in Indonesia, that we are mostly doing things in the same time. So this is like, for example, in Indonesia, if you're working, but there are some cultural events or traditions that you need to follow or to attend, then you have to do that because it's a must from the community or from the culture of the community. That's make us cultures are more polychronic than monochronic. And then the second one is individualism and collectivism. So if you see first here on individualist culture, this is mostly people like have a personal goals, like think themselves as independent. And then in communication, they are more direct, and also they are single person earn credit or blame. So if you work as an intelligent of a country, that is really important to also understand like this country or this group of people are they are more individualist or they are more collectivism. On the other hand, in the collectivism, here more like people see group are more importance rather than a single person, and then they are more interdependence with other people. And in this culture as well, they see like goals as a group, as a holistic group, and then they avoid direct conflict, also blames or credit goes to group. So when you're trying to analyze or observe any situations in different countries, for instance, and and then as intelligence see like this is country that is more individualist or more collectivist, something like that. And then number three, they're more about language and cultural context. So this different high and low context of culture here are like the high context culture more like reading nonverbal behavior, speak less, listen more, indirect and implicit. Where on the other hand, they're like low context culture here more like direct, explicit communication, and emphasis on verbal and share information. So when you work as again as intelligent of the country or intelligent staff, when you assign a duty to other countries, for instance, like you need to have the skill to see like these countries are more um giving information, maybe from the president to the media, for instance, or from their stakeholders, or they are more in high context, for instance, maybe they restrict the information or restrict the communication to public and etc. So it really depends how the cultures are using the context here and also the language they use to represent the information or messages. And then number fourth here are a bit about the power. You see like low and high power. So low power mostly here more like Western countries. And then they seem like status and right are not very important, and they are trying to minimize differentiate status. And parents and children like equal, teachers hope initiative from the students as well. So basically in this low power, there is no much distance when they try to express their opinions or showing disagreement and etc. Rather than in high power culture, which is mostly in Asian countries, that show the rights and status are very important. They need, for example, like when people are in a community or in Asia, for instance, here they have classes of social, or they have a caste, for instance, in a specific setting that shows also differentiate is very common, to see like people come from this race, come from this part of group of people, and etc. And even here, like for example, in a family, children must respect parents, like we need to respect them. And also the children cannot show their disagreement with the parents, etc. That's shown in a very high power context, or even in the school, between teacher and student as well. And then the number five here, more about masculinity and femininity. So the masculine culture, more value of work, strength, competition, assertiveness, and feminine culture here, more like showing how the affection, compassion, and nurturing, and more showing interpersonal relationship to others. So if you see here, maybe example some countries that have highest masculinity, for instance, Japan, Australia, Venezuela, Ireland, Britain, Germany, Mexico, and then heights feminines like come from Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, Denmark, Finland, Portugal, and Thailand. If you see maybe in our country, Indonesia, I think we are kind of like more on masculinity. For instance, if you see the members of parliament in the House of Representatives, that mostly they are men rather than female, or when there's this is a making to make, mostly like men are taking part rather than female. to create a decision, for instance, in our community. So this kind of skill or of understanding of cultural in the society that very important when you are assigned a task as intelligent of the country. And then let's see now, like comparing a bit of the cultures, how people in different countries have different attitudes. This is will show some cases, I think, how differences between the ASEAN and West cultures are happening. And you see maybe the color of yellow will be like West countries, and then the red one are mostly the ASEAN countries. So if you see here, probably it's very common that people in the West country, when they are communicating, showing the cultures, they're quite very direct with their opinions, right? In on the other on the other way that Asian people are more indirect and go around and around, and then they show that, hey, this is my opinion. And then way of life, mostly also people in a Western country, they are seems more individualism, a thing of themselves. They can do things by themselves, or they feel like they didn't need help or something like that. Whereas in Asian countries, like people are more love to gathering and then gossiping, like spend time with families or group of people, friends, to show that the culture of how way of life also happening. And then on punctuality, here's more like about how people see time, when they are working or when they have appointment with others, like people in Western mostly like very on time. Rather than here in, for example, in Indonesia, we always call it rubber time. We are a bit of in time when you say like, okay, let's have a meeting at 1. Then probably people just come at 2, 3. It depends on there's traffic, there's things, and etc. There's so many excuses rather than people in Western. They are like trying to show respect by on time when you have appointment. And then also about contacts, like how people are connecting with each other. Where in Western countries, mostly like people are contact related person only, trying to have only relationship with the people they mostly known already. Rather than here in Asian country, people are love to make friends, colleges, talk to people they didn't know probably in advance. So they just love to cheers up, and also show that how friendly they are as a cultures. And then also anger, like when people say I'm angry, like that in Western people like this really showing the anger. So they are very angry. And then in ASEAN, or for instance in Asia, when they disagree or anger or angry to others, they just still say politely, hey, I think I don't like, hey, I think it should be like this, it should be like that. That's very different how people are showing their anger. And then queuing, for instance, when they buy something or buy some stuff in the store, like how people in the West probably like very disciplined, like queuing to get their order. While in ASEAN countries, probably, this is our culture as well, like people trying to get as fast as possible, like they didn't care of other, they just like go to the front and they're like trying to pay the bill, etc. And then try as fast as possible. So, for instance, as well in the restaurant, when people talk in the West, maybe silently, like try not to be noisy. But like people here maybe like in Asia, like they didn't care. They just make noise and they just um talk in the restaurant and then make a laugh, etc. Or even like travel, like this West people mostly like traveling to see more landscape, more nature, etc. But here like more people are taking selfies or pictures, and even transportation here as well, to showing how people are in Western previously they go by car, but now they're more seeing like more sustainability, to go by bicycling or on foot. But here people like they're very how to say, before they're just bicycling and then now they saw that hey, I have money to buy car, for instance, or elderly, for instance, in the West, mostly they live with the pets, and then now mainly like in the Asian people, they love to live with the grandson and daughter because they love to stay collectively with the family until they die and etc. So I think that's all from the class today, and I'm very happy to share all of this knowledge for you as the perspective intelligence of our countries. You know, to have this kind of very important knowledge to understand the intercultural communications or different cultures in different societies or even different nations will help you to be a better intelligence in the future. So hopefully that's helpful for you to prepare you as intelligent of a country. See you. Bye bye.